I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 25th, 2024 regular scheduled Port Clinton City Council meeting in the Linda Hart Love Chambers of Port Clinton City Hall. Would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance and one silent reflection for the serving
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Beth Gilman. Present. Margaret Phillips.
Present.
Richard Morgan.
I am here on time.
Kelly Tingle. Here. Chad Hovis. Here. Terry Crowley. Kathy King.
Here. Thank you. Council, you previously received the June 11, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting?
Madam President, I move for approval of the minutes from June 11th.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
We can't hear.
I mean, well, we just asked for approval of the minutes.
Now we can hear.
Okay, so, and I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, seconded by Mr. Troy to approve the minutes from June 11th, 2024. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. The June 11th, 2024 meeting minutes are approved. The chair notes that certification has been made regarding compliance with the rules and notifications of this meeting. We have no guest presentation. Public comment.
Oh, I am so sorry. I got distracted. I apologize.
You're fine.
Paul Moon, 1119 Lee Avenue.
Yes. You want me behind this thing?
Sure, that's fine.
Good evening. Madam President, members of council, city government, my name is Paul Moon. I live at 1119 Lee Avenue with my wife Maria, who's here also. And previously, in my work, I worked in the city hall, the old city hall, for over 20 years. So I feel quite welcome here. I hope I'm welcome. But that was a long time ago, and now I'm just staying mainly at home and trying to mind my own business. However, from time to time, I go to Lakeview Cemetery with my wife Maria, and we work around the mausoleum and in other areas of the cemetery with the Friends of the Cemetery, which I'm sure you're familiar with that group. I sweep out the mausoleum. I help plant flowers, water the flowers, change the screens, the windows. So when I finish my chores, I feel really good because I've been able to do something for the city again. And then when I leave the cemetery, I'm confronted with that horrible, noxious junkyard that butts right up against the Lakeview Cemetery on the west side. I mean, it is terrible, and it's growing. Every time we go there, it gets larger. Now it's putting in some kind of fencing. There are old vehicles, lawnmowers, a typical junkyard. How can we tolerate something like that in the city of Port Clinton?
Mayor, would you like to address that?
I do know that the law director has sent that property owner several notifications. I'm not sure if it's gotten to the stage, I'm looking at the back of her head, she can't see that. I'm not sure if it's gotten to the stage of taking them to court, but we are aware of it and we're taking all the appropriate actions. Unfortunately, as you know, Your Honor, it doesn't happen quickly.
Pardon?
As you know, things don't happen quickly in government.
Whose ward is it?
Ward one.
That's in my ward, and there are multiple properties in my ward that need addressed, and the law director has been pretty aggressive in doing what she can.
You simply can't be happy with that.
No, there's multiple properties that are very disappointing. She's been dealing with it for years.
I hope you're proceeding. I'm no longer a judge, and I'm not even licensed to practice law in Ohio at this point. but I'd be happy to sit down with anyone who wants to know the procedure. I can tell you step by step, because I wrote the zoning law back in the 70s for the city of Portland. So I hope you're proceeding with it, and I'll stop back from time to time and see what's happening.
I'll be honest, Ms. Schenker has been very aggressive. The property at the corner of Second and Jefferson has been a continuous weed nuisance. They've been taken to court twice, and they've made some substantial improvements.
Well,
But it took a
particularly-
year and a half to get that process through the
I'm
courts.
particularly concerned about the property next to the cemetery.
Yeah, I understand, as we
Because
are.
by tolerating that, we dishonor the soul of every single person who's buried in that cemetery.
Ignoring it.
That's 700.
Thank you.
That's just. Thank you.
Tracy Bierman, 226 Fulton Street.
Go to stand right here. Madam President and members of the council, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I was here, my name is Tracy Bierman, hometown boy. I live in Wassiana, Ohio now, but I do have a short-term rental Airbnb on Fulton Street. I was here at the March 12th meeting, and I asked if the city would enforce its ordinances regarding vacant buildings that are causing blight on the 200 block across the street from my place on Fulton Street. I think you've all driven past it. And, those used to be, thriving businesses once upon a time. My mom and dad owned Webb's Barn across the street there in that corner, and that was a long time ago too. But now it doesn't look so nice. 105 days have passed, and I have never received any updates regarding this issue. The appearance of the properties across the street and next to my building has not changed. I would like to encourage the mayor and the council members to, park your car, get out, walk past those buildings, take a good close look. There's just, the wood is all, it's rotted, it's falling off. It's just does not look good. It's big crack in the window, vertical crack about a quarter-inch wide. In April, I spoke with interim fire chief Brian Gutman about the properties, and he knew where they were located and said he would inspect them. A few weeks later, he told me that the building on 3rd and Fulton was a fire hazard, and there was a renter living upstairs. He said he reported this to the city. As far as getting something done, I'm hoping that can happen. I know it takes a long time. Just as Mr. Moon just said, it's a slow process, unfortunately. But in the ordinances that Port Clinton has, it does list penalties. With the short-term rental, I have to pay tax every month, 3% tax, which I do. If I don't, there's a penalty. I can lose my license or get it suspended. We all have lawns in our homes. I keep mine mowed. I have a highly qualified lawnmower that keeps my property looking nice. Again, if I don't cut the grass, let it grow, get weeds and blight that affects the look of the neighborhood, then there's a penalty for that. I can be fined. So I'm just here tonight to ask the mayor and council members if any progress is being made in regards to these properties. And I made copies of Ordinance 1327. These aren't the same ones that I mailed to you back in March, but okay, pass those out. You're gonna pass them down, or? But
Okay.
I don't know if you're all aware of what they all say. I've got one for. I got 15 of them. That might
Thank you.
So, just wondering where we're at on that, and if we could just get them to put up, curtains across the windows, that would make it look nicer. I mean, there's nothing like that downtown. You drive through downtown, and
I think one quick clarification needs to happen. I think this also applies to Mr. Moon, and we appreciate everyone coming to talk, and we appreciate hearing thoughts, but council's role is not to enforce ordinances. We pass legislation. Once it's passed, we can't force anybody to do anything. And we're glad you're coming to the city and expressing your opinions, but also I don't want the notion or the belief to be that council is the one in charge of making people follow the rules. But please keep coming, keep giving your opinions and everything. We just want to make sure that We hear you, we don't want anyone to be unhappy, but we can't do anything about it personally, sitting right here. But
Administration and police are the ones that enforce and take the legal action.
Ms. Schenker, do we have any movement on
I
that?
don't,
No, we don't have a property maintenance officer. So I mean, we can talk about this day and night, but we do not have a person who can go out and enforce this.
When will we get said officer?
That's a good question.
Very good question.
That's a very good question. So that could be directed to Mr. Colston. It could be directed towards the finances of the city, but that would require somebody to be paid to do this job. We don't have a property maintenance officer at this time.
Did we
and
have one at some point?
I don't.
He was terminated on January 16th-ish.
Okay.
I've been told in the past it's been the zoning inspector. I've been told different things because I'm very familiar with this particular part of our ordinances, this section, because of stuff that's gone in my ward. And Dina has addressed what's happening with the measures she can use, because some of this stuff, the property maintenance officer's been, or the designee, like, okay, there's no property maintenance officer, the designee, who's the designee? Well, if there's no officer. And maybe that's something that needs to be addressed legislatively. If nobody's in this position, who can continue to enforce what the city has on the books? And maybe that's something council needs to look at in the future. I don't know. Because that's been one of my frustrations, and I get the answer, and it's been brought up. Dean's addressed it with me multiple times, and has taken other steps to address some of the stuff, and we've had some successes. It's slow. There's been properties that we've dealt with years and years and years, and finally it's like, oh, it's finally addressed. And in my ward in particularly, there's some severe issues, and they have gone to court and taken people to court and battled it. It's frustrating. It's a frustrating process. I see it every day. But like Kelly said, we can't enforce it, but maybe some legislation needs changed or looked at. If we don't have anybody that can enforce it, what's the point of it? So maybe that's something this council needs to address. I don't know. That would be a discussion with Dina in the future.
We're also mixing words. Those properties, Mr. Bierman, you're referring to on Fulton are not vacant properties. They each have people who live inside of the buildings. You can't just look at the storefront as a whole. You need to look at the entire building. There are people who live there, number one. Number two, the pictures you pointed out with the crack in the window, those are minor, and I advised you that we would reach out to the owners to see if they could do something about that. Because the problem you have is with the inside. And the inside does not fall under the exterior property code. It falls on the inside, which the city cannot control. That's up to the property owner. Mr. Gutman went out there under the fire code, and he found out that the prior fire chief never had the most current code approved and updated, and we're working with a company to fix our codified ordinances. That happens once every 3 months they do that, so we're still waiting for that. Unfortunately, I understand you now have a business on Fulton Street, but a lot of these things are going to take some time. The easiest way, as I stated previously, was to reach out to the homeowner or the property owner, and we're trying to see if they could do something with that property. The second easiest way is to go through the fire code, which we can't really do much until the current fire code is in our codified ordinances, which it's not. So it needs to be approved. We're working on that. Short of this exterior property maintenance code, we don't have a property maintenance officer. It has never been the zoning officer. It's not referred to the zoning officer in any way, shape, or form. And unfortunately, we tried to take this on without a property maintenance officer, but ultimately, there's a crack there, because if somebody isn't going out there and if somebody isn't putting down the violations, and if somebody isn't filing those violations with, for example, with me to do something with, then I can't do it all. I can't go out there and see the violations, note them down, file them than try to prosecute them when I don't even have a witness at this point, because my witness is me, because I'm doing everything. So we do have options the city has discussed, and see if some duties can be shifted around between some employees already at the city. But as I indicated, that is going to take some time.
Well, I know there's people living on the corner, there's apartments out there. But
Right.
the other two buildings to the north, there's people living in there?
The building I believe you're referring to, the other building is the building that has the plywood over the windows. You yourself indicated that the lady lives upstairs in that building. So if she lives in the building.
There's no second floor.
The auditor's web, on the auditor's site, those buildings are listed
It's on
as
Fulton Third, there's an upstairs
used for storage, that's what it
That's
says.
right. The treasure shop, I think has someone above it, but the one to the north of it, I think that's completely vacant, I believe.
In the pink
There's
building?
nothing.
No,
No.
the brick building.
It's all on
Okay.
the east
We're
side.
talking the east side of the
Okay.
street.
Okay.
We're not talking
The
about.
Are you
corner
talking
one-
about the old Webb's barn on the corner, that, yeah, she's living up there above
That's
that
the
one.
same.
Okay, I thought you
Right.
meant that,
And
okay.
there's someone living above the treasure shop across the street?
They
But the
they
one-
were, yeah.
But the one to the north of it,
Yeah, there's nowhere to,
no,
no.
you know. And you know, and I
And I'm
understand,
not sure which brick building I guess you're talking about. I thought they were all.
it used to be Smith's Automotive back in the day, I believe, I don't know. So, I understand the difficulty you're in, and trust me, I understand that. I also understand his frustration. You know, he came here in April, and we said we'd start working on it by June. Here's June, and we haven't done a darn thing. And I'm not saying we can. I'm not saying you're dropping the ball. That's not what I'm implying. But I understand his problem. And like Beth said, if there isn't a way to fix it, maybe there should be. You know, I think it's something, I mean, those buildings aren't the worst in the city by any means, but I do understand your point. You know, it's, I mean, the city can't do everything to make your Airbnb better, but still, they look horrible. You know, I understand that. You know, so it just seems like, I don't know what we can do. I mean, I'm not blaming you, Dina,
Well,
you're stuck
Mr.
there.
Morgan, it's not my ball to drop.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying, it's not your fault, right?
That is
Yeah.
a city government issue. I am, you know, charged with the task of writing ordinances and appearing in court on behalf of the city and things like that. I've stepped out of that role to try to help with other issues, but quite frankly, I mean, that is something that you need to address with Mr. Colston or someone else who's
Right.
able to do that. I do not hire or fire any
No, and-
employees,
and
so
as I
I
said,
can't do what you want me to
There,
do.
no, there is nothing, I'm not blaming you on this by any means. I'm just saying it's a difficult situation, there should be some answer. I don't know whose fault it is, I don't know who to blame if there's no one to blame.
Okay,
There should be some
Morgan,
answer.
Mr. Colston is on vacation right now, so maybe that's something you can contact him when he comes back after the 4th of July, he'll be back. So he works regular hours, he may be the one that you need to contact to see what the update is, so.
Okay, thank
And
you.
Mr. Behrman, please don't, and I don't want anyone to take my comments as a, well, we can't do anything about it, don't talk to us. I would encourage people to come to council and let us know what's going on and what you're unhappy with, different things. I just want to make sure it's clear what our roles are. And when we hear these things about maybe something's not working out with legislation, like Beth said, maybe we need to take a double look at it. So please come here, share your frustrations. I just want to make sure we're clear on what everyone's role is.
And sometimes there are explanations that, okay, we've written letters, we've done this, there's steps, I've had issues in the past, and Dina has sent multiple letters, and we're not involved in the day-to-day operations of the city. We don't know that they've sent these things, and people have gone to court, this has happened. Sometimes those things happen, and the neighbors don't know because they're not directly involved in it, and there are things being done at a city level that it is good to keep coming and express it, even if, it's good to have these conversations, and I agree with Kelly, keep coming, keep bringing them.
I just have a question for Mr. Behrman. I guess my question is, those issues at that store, that's been there for quite some time. I mean, at least since last, let's say, 5 years. What is it that's making you share your frustration and concerns now? Is it getting worse by your belief, or what is
Well, it's probably not
it?
getting worse, I mean, the stuff's been in that store since the 60s, probably.
Right.
Well, just when I opened up I renovated what used to be a barber shop. I renovated that, made it look nice as an Airbnb. And it just upsets me that I put that much time and work into it. And it's right across the street from the ugly buildings.
Right. I understand. I mean, I don't know if it's affecting your business or not, or if people just look
Well,
towards
I don't
the lake
think it-
and don't look that way, but,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any pictures of that on my site.
sure.
But I wonder, you know, we've probably all been to an Airbnb or a Vrbo or something, and you pull up to the neighborhood and you look, you go, oh, what's this gonna be like? So hopefully when they open the door, they go, oh, okay, it's all right. But, I don't know if it's selfish on my part, but it's just like that part of town used to be a good business area, and now it's just, you know, you have people coming in that are visitors, and you drive down Fulton Street, and that's a heavily trafficked street, and it just looks awful.
Well, we're gonna do our best to try to get something done. However, we're missing pieces. There are definitely some pieces that are missing. I'm hoping that the property owner may want to cooperate, and try to at least shield some of that. But other than that, I mean, we're probably gonna have to look under the fire code, make them at least clean it out. And then if they don't, then we can go down a couple different avenues.
Well, like I say, on the auditor's page, it's listed, both those buildings to the north are listed as in the treasure shop too. That whole side, and it's all owned by the same person.
It is.
And I think her son lives in Dublin, I believe. It says on the auditor's page, it says those buildings are used for storage. Like, storage of what? There's, I mean, there might be a couple antiques in there, but last time I looked, there was a bird flying around in there, but I don't know. It's just frustrating. I understand.
Any more public comment? Meg Blackburn, 908 East Perry Street.
Hello, everyone. I'm here because I had emailed Tracy Colson a week ago, and as a follow-up to what's going on across from my house on Perry Street, the wetlands, just wanting to know updates. I listed questions for him about, is the city's, last time I came to council and talked to Tracy afterwards, he said that it was gonna revert back to the city. I haven't heard any updates since then. I asked for updates. I also talked to the head of the project. Still have not heard really any updates. I did see they were over spraying the Phragmites and invasive species. There's trees growing. Just wondered where that process is at, who's in charge, who we can talk to, and didn't realize Tracy was on vacation,
He's
so.
been on vacation.
And
I don't know when he went.
It has not been turned over to the city yet.
Okay, when
I
is,
don't know.
you don't know?
From what I heard, and this is very much as Tracy was walking out the door on vacation, so he got a hold of the USDA and basically said you need to get in here and start doing something because they haven't, and that's why they were spraying. So it's actually good to see that they were in there spraying. What they told him briefly, and this is by no means the entire situation, but they just gave him enough to know what's going on, is that those invasive species they need to remove before they can do anything else. So unfortunately, we're still waiting, and it's frustrating for the city.
There's more invasive species over there than what they planted. I mean,
Exactly,
it's choking out everything that they planted.
And that's what I believe he expressed, quite frankly, with them, saying like, this is getting to be a little too much here. So basically, they're gonna spray and see what happens, and then go on with the next step. It cannot revert back to the city until the issues that they have identified have gone away, and one of them is the invasive species. And I know before there were invasive species inside of the wetlands, and also
Now they've moved down.
surrounding. So I don't know. I would suggest a follow-up with Mr. Colston. He'll be back after July 4th, and he can probably give you more information. I know he was on the phone busy working, trying to make phone calls and trying to get things done before he left to try to get this process moving.
Okay. Do you know if they're gonna do anything for the trees that are growing over there? Because
All they
that
said was
isn't-
we need to get rid of the invasive species and then we can move on to the next step. So unfortunately, they, like I said, I heard this as he was walking out the door, so I do not know what the next step is, and I don't know what they're planning on doing, but the goal is to get that cleaned up. And they've been told the fact that they came out so quickly and sprayed was kind of impressive. So he definitely spoke with the right person there to get them to come out that quickly. So I think we just need to see what dies off and then what they can do next. But I know there's also been some transition there in employees.
That's what I asked in the email also,
There-
who is the project manager
But
now?
I
and-
do not know, I do not know. I know that he had expressed frustration that the people that he was dealing with are no longer there. So he is kind of starting all over with introducing himself and doing
And the
that.
deed restrictions of what can and cannot happen over there.
Well, those are, the deed restrictions really, I mean, right now, it's still an active site. As long as they keep coming out, it's an active site, and the one part that that is, the deed restricts to, it says the bushes that are over 3 feet.
And there's also
And
a
I-
deed restriction on the trees.
Well, the trees can grow, they actually want them to grow tall, they just can't have low-lying branches. So so that space in between the tree, the leaves, and the ground is open. So as the USDA stated before, we have a contract with them, we have to let them finish their work, and then hopefully we can get the property where, I think it's Fish and Wildlife is gonna come in, and they can do a lot more, but everybody's just waiting for this to take place. So he could definitely tell you more. I just know that it's been a frustrating process on our end as well, because we're waiting for them to come in and do this, and unfortunately we're still waiting.
Okay.
And I fully came prepared. I wrote all your questions down on my paper, and I had no idea Mr. Colson was also on vacation. And I was just gonna email you after this and be like, oh, we'll have to follow up next
Right.
week, so.
And he never goes on vacation, so it's
Yeah.
kind of a big deal that
He
he's
needed it,
gone
yeah, sure.
for more than a couple of
Everybody
days.
deserves a vacation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any further? Okay. Move on to executive officers reports. Council, just remember to do your public records training. You have to do that one time during your term, or the end of your term. And then have a happy and safe 4th of July. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, members of council, citizens. Update on the forward-looking infrastructure project. 1,902 days ago, myself, 3 members of Kleinfelder Pogemeyer Design Group, and then Safety Service Director Olin Martin met in the meeting room right across the hall to talk about this thing that we were talking about. Turned out to be the forward-looking infrastructure project. Today, 2 of the 9 projects that make up FLIP have gone out to bid. Those include the Lakeshore Drive crosswalk and Plan A, which is the above ground phase 1. Well, last Tuesday, we had in this room a pre-construction meeting to talk about Plan A phase 1. And at the conclusion of that meeting, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, who's underwriting the entire massive $34 million project, gave us the approval to move ahead with construction. Erie Paving, as you all know, was awarded the contract. Earlier today, I received a phone call that they have begun. If anyone's driven down Adams Street, you will see that they started grading down the asphalt, and then of course it started to rain and they had to quit. But a special thanks to everyone in this room, council included, of course Tracy and Olin Martin, our safety service directors, Greg Telecki and Jack Jones from Kleinfelder Pogemeyer Design Group. Doug Neusser kind of plays a unique double role. Doug Neusser was the head engineer for Kleinfelder Pogemeyer, retired, and now is the project coordinator overseeing his engineering work to make this project happen. Of course, the voters, the citizens, not all citizens are voters, the funding sources, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Ohio Department of Transportation, Ohio Public Works Commission, the Lake Erie Conservation Group, Conservation Committee, WSRLA, Water Supply Revolving Loan Administration, Ohio EPA, STAG funding, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and their 509 funds. We wouldn't have been able to do this without the support of Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur, Senator Sherrod Brown, the state representatives and Senators DJ Swearingen, Teresa Gavril, and of course the Ottawa County Commissioners, who all lent support to this project. Those who have and will submit bids as we move forward throughout this project. The crews that are out there working right now, it was neat. Earlier today, and Sandy, this is your key. Pass them around. Earlier today, I was down and I showed up taking pictures, and some of the crew came up to me and started talking. I introduced myself, of course, and I told them I had goosebumps that this project was underway. And one of the crew members smiled and said, "So do I. I live about 6 blocks that way." And we were talking and joking about how the project was underway. And he wanted me to point out that the crews do like chocolate chip cookies. So as they come down your street, if you're so inclined to put out chocolate chip cookies, they would certainly support that. It's a fluid process here. Don't necessarily know which day they're going to be on which street because of weather delays and so forth, but 72 hours prior to construction on your street, they will post the signs, no parking signs. If you have any special needs with regarding to parking on the street or close to your home, please stop the crews. They'll be happy to work with you. They'll stop traffic so you can get in and out of your driveway. Now, one of the things that we weren't able to do because this happened, it took 1,902 days. I didn't want anything to delay any longer than we could, so we couldn't necessarily have a ribbon cutting ceremony. So we're going to do an impromptu here tonight. Sandy was kind enough to pass out these party poppers. Face the paper away from you and away from your neighbor. You might want to duck there, Dina Shanker. On the count of 3, we're going to twist the bottom and see what happens. If everyone's ready, 1, 2, 3. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Thank you, Dollar Store.
Here.
Hey! Hey! Yay! A little anticlimactic there, but this certainly isn't the end of the project. It's actually a new beginning. It's a giant step for the city of Port Clinton that'll be going on for years to come. It's something that was talked about at the beginning. With the engineering firm, we are one of the only communities that they're aware of, and they work in all of Northwest Ohio, Southern Michigan, Northern Indiana, that has never had a long-term road infrastructure project or plan. So we're taking that huge step. Again, it's going to be going on for years, but it's happening. And I have to tell you a funny story. When I got the phone call that they had started construction, and my first call was to my mom to say, "Hey, Mom, guess what? This is so cool. They've started work on Adams Street." And her response was, "Oh no, how am I going to get to St. John Church? I have a meeting at 10 o'clock. I'm like, "Mom, get the bigger picture here." And then she figured out she could park at Gurner Wolf. Anyways, so there you go. Moving on to some other activities, unless anyone has any questions about Flip.
I have 2 questions.
Yep.
One is, I was on Monroe Street between 3rd and 4th, there was one of those signs there.
Yep.
And my only problem was, it said no parking, and it said Monday through Friday, but then it said June 25th, and I wasn't quite sure what date, and exactly, there was one sign that did that mean the whole side of the road? It was
Yes.
kind of unclear.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Okay, so maybe.
And there should have been multiple signs and
Well,
door
it was
hangers.
confusing to me.
Okay.
And the second thing is, once I see those signs, that means they're gonna be close. I wanna know when to make chocolate chip cookies.
Yes,
Okay,
that
so-
means within 72 hours.
When I see the sign, they're gonna be within 3 days, so I should.
Ish.
Okay, so I should
Yeah.
have the dough ready. when I see it.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, were you able to contact the National Guard, Mr. Darby, by any chance?
Yes, and they are all set.
Good.
They are all
Good.
set.
I'm glad to be able to help there.
And what Mr. Colson is referring to, some of the waste products.
Mr. Tiroli.
What'd I say?
Mr. Colson.
Sorry.
Responsibility, Jerry.
Terry, what Jerry's referring to is some of the scrap materials are going to be sent out to Camp Perry so they can build up an area for a construction project they have out there, which is saving the city a large sum of money. So that's a good thing. On another note, unless anyone has any other questions, today is Fish Ohio Day. Governor DeWine was in town. As this council is well aware, although I'm the mayor of the Walleye capital of the world, I get seasick in a bathtub. So Luke Johnson, our service department supervisor, was kind enough to go out and go fishing. Before they got blown off of the lake in the storm, his boat had captured 6 fish. So I think it was a successful day. I didn't hear about any other boats or how everything went. Fireworks. I know everyone's concerned about the fireworks, especially Ms. Phillips. For those of you that are unaware, a couple council meetings ago, I made the off-the-cuff term that, hey, maybe we could raise some money if Margaret would shave her head. Well, after the meeting, she said, yeah, I think I'll do it, but we need to raise $20,000. We didn't quite raise $20,000, but as of this moment, $6,270 was raised towards the fireworks. Obviously, that's $13,700 shy of what we needed, but again, it's a great thing. We have, as of this moment, we are $2,916.50 shy of what we need for the fireworks on July 4th. However, I have some folks in my back pocket that I can call last minute, and we're going to have fireworks. That's the bottom line. We're going to have fireworks on July 4th and all the other activities. Council, in front of you, you have the forms with all the activities. You can find them on Facebook. I'm sure they're being posted around town. So all is well with the 4th of July, and then we begin the process of raising money for next year. When the fireworks itself and the 4th of July festivities aren't necessarily a city event. It just so happens, I'm the mayor and I'm chairman of the committee, but that started well before the mayorship. Most of the activities in the community are put on by community members, volunteers, and the city provides an ancillary role in those: police protection, fire protection, and so on and so forth. When I started this 19 years ago now, the fireworks show was $8,000. This year's exact same show is $17,200, or maybe $17,400. So we're gonna have to double down, see if we can raise some money. I don't know if Judge Moon would be willing to shave his head. We could raise some money that way. But we'll talk about that one later. And Margaret will talk to see if you'd be willing to literally extend your neck out to see if we can get this going for next year. Finally, I talk about these all the time. The J1 kids, the exchange kids that are coming in community, by the end of this month, there'll be about 550 between Port Clinton, Catawba, Marblehead, and South Bass Island. 60% of them over on the islands, 40% of them here. I've met kids from literally all over the world. I just met 2 young ladies today from Kazakhstan that are working in a different hotel in downtown Port Clinton. If you come across these kids, and a lot of times in the restaurants, they're back of the house, so you may not see them, but if you see them at the grocery store, they love to talk English. Please just say hello to them. We're working on something called a community support group that has been, this community support groups have been established in other spots around the U.S. These are folks that will just maybe take their kid out to dinner once a week, or give them a ride to the grocery store. If they have an extra bike, pass along the bike. These kids are here to work, have a good time, learn the American experience, and enjoy things. On Monday, July 29th, at the stage down in the district at MOM, from 5 to 9 p.m., we'll have a welcome event for all of the J1 students in the greater Marblehead, Port Clinton, Catawba, Put-in-Bay area. We encourage everybody to come down and say hi and meet these kids. The kids will be provided with food. There'll be games, a DJ. Just stop down and say hi and greet these folks from all over the place. So with that, Madam President, unless anyone has any questions, that concludes my report for this evening. Yes? Ms.
I have a
Sanders?
question. Just out of curiosity, the J1 students, how do they get here?
Yeah.
Like how does their journey begin?
Yeah,
And
sure.
Get them here.
I'll try to say this as briefly as I can. The program, I say J1, but the program itself is called Bridge USA. It was started by the U.S. Congress in the late 1960s. As a side note, Cedar Point was kind of the initiative to get this going. It's administered by the U.S. Department of State. There are 30 companies in the world that are contracted with the U.S. Department of State. Those companies go out to whatever country they're representing, go to colleges, trade magazines, whatnot, to recruit the kids. As an employer, I work with one of those 30 companies, and there are 6 that operate here in Northern Ohio. I've always, since 1999, worked with one company. I go online, I type in the dates I need. Do I want male or female? I can choose a country, choose a position. The kids can choose if they want to be a housekeeper, if they want to serve ice cream, so on and so forth. All of the kids put a bio about themselves, there's a picture, and most of them nowadays put a little video. And I sit there and hit submit, see what pops up. I watch the videos, I offer them a job. I'll also send them an email explaining Port Clinton and the job and so forth. The kids can say yes or no, and then we go from there. It's the kids' responsibility to make their way to the United States. In our case, I always go to the airport, Cleveland, Detroit, to pick them up and bring them to Port Clinton, but that's not a requirement. The kids need to pay their way to get to their job site. In our case, we have rented 2 properties here in Port Clinton on an annual basis, furnished them to provide the accommodations. Some kids, if they're working at a different hotel, are staying in hotel rooms. A couple other places have purchased properties and are housing the kids in that property. We've had some initial conversations with an organization that will build international housing. There are 300,000 kids permitted by law to come into the United States every summer to do this. So this is all over the United States. Many communities have gotten together with the employers and built J1 housing. The kids still pay for the housing, but it's a centralized location. In my case, it would free up 2 rental spots that could be opened up for someone else. It also then will permit a place like, and I hate to pick on them, A La Carte Cafe, who I know would love to have J1 kids, but they don't have the ability to provide housing. And there's dozens of other places like that that would open up this to a lot more folks. In the communities where this J1 housing has occurred, it's increased revenues for the community. It's provided a higher level of service. You know, we've all tried to get into a restaurant and they say it's a 40-minute wait, and by the time you sit down, half the tables are empty because they don't have enough staff to work. Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, just put up J1 housing, and I didn't realize this. Dollywood was never a year-round destination because they didn't have staff. It is now a year-round destination. So all of these things play into it. We're working with, or discussing with the primary builders of these J1 houses, working with the commissioners. We've identified 2 parcels of land, talked to those property owners. It's now working. I had a conversation yesterday with the Ohio Department of Development Director about this very thing and any funds that are available from that aspect to help make this J1 housing thing happen here in our community. I know there's a little more than you asked, Dina, but.
No, and then once the kids are here, you said that there's properties that are rented for them to stay in. How do they pay for the rent of those properties?
It's up to the individual employer. We charge our kids $75 a week. That includes all the utilities and so forth, provide the beds, furnishings, and all that fun stuff. Some of the employers on the island are free because it's a little bit larger living costs on the island. The island has also made arrangements with the taxi services to provide transportation all around. A lot of the employers around here will provide bicycles. Because of the nature of what I do and the properties I manage are spread out throughout the community, we provide vehicles for them.
And is that money that they pay for rent, does that just come out directly from their paycheck?
No,
or?
We give them a full paycheck and then they reimburse the lodging. We send them an invoice.
Mr. Snyder, you've told us in the past that these, you call them kids, but they're not all young. What's the age range now?
They're all college age. I have had as young as 18 and as quote unquote old as 30. The ones I have right now, I have 6 in-house and 1 more coming Sunday, are 22 to 24. The 2 young ladies I met from Kazakhstan earlier today working at America's Best Value were both 18, 19 years old. There's 5 or 6, maybe 7 at the Ice Shanty, several dozen out at CIC. Sleep Inn has some. The hotel across from Sleep Inn, I can't think of the name of it right now, has some. So there are several other places I can't think of right now have them, but in that college age range. That's a stipulation of this program. They have to be enrolled in a university. One of the young ladies I met last night at the Ice Shanty is a master's student studying English. You would never know English was her second language. It was beautiful, beautiful spoken.
for their transportation locally, what do they use?
Foot, bike, as far as I know, we're the only one that provide a vehicle. Taxis are often coworkers, American coworkers, will give them rides to, if they have to travel a distance to Target or to Walmart, Kroger, things of that nature. That's hopefully, if we can get this community support group started, that will alleviate some of the burden of the coworkers and so forth. You know, we've all seen, and I know what to look for, but I've driving down 163 from town on your way to Walmart, and you see the kids riding the bikes with the backpacks. Those are day one kids. You see them all the time down Lakeshore Drive. Several years ago, there were 8 ladies from mainland China working out at the Sleep Inn, and it just so happens they were in the no-go zone for the 4th of July fireworks, and the former fire chief thought they were my kids. They weren't, but as I approached them, they walked into town from the Sleep Inn, which is out by Casa Las Palmas. We think of that, and we think, oh my God, there's no way I would ever ride a bicycle down 163. Trust me, the traffic here in Port Clinton is nothing to Taipei and Bangkok. I can't speak about the other countries, but I have to presume it's the same.
One more question, and that's it, I promise. Is there
I love talking about the kids.
Is there an educational component for them that they need to fulfill when they go back to their country?
No. And after the program, their visa permits them to stay and work here in the States for 3 months, and then they're given 1 month to travel around the States. In the 25 years I've been doing this, I only know of 2 kids that I've employed that took the full month. There were 8 or 9 different flights, and they went everywhere from Florida to Alaska. Most of the kids will go to point A, point B, and then home in a 5 to 7 day period. But they have lifetime. I still keep in contact. The very first kid I ever employed, Zoran Pandalowski, from what is now North Macedonia, just north of Greece. He and his then girlfriend, now wife, immigrated to Canada. My ex-wife and I met them when they came to Canada, spent a week with them. They now have 2 children. His son is a sophomore in high school and is a D1 basketball prospect, goes to a private prep school outside of Orlando, and again, they live in Toronto. His wife, at one point in her career, was the CFO for Microsoft Canada. This year, we have a nurse, a pharmacist, real estate management, and I can't get the other ones off now. In the past, we've had chemical engineers. These are pilots. We've had all sorts of folks, and they're just interesting to talk to. I can continue talking about these kids.
We'll go on to the auditor's report. Mr. Beal.
Thank you, Madam President. Council, any questions? Excuse me. Thank you.
Okay. Law Director?
Any questions? Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Mr. Christman, you have anything this evening?
Nothing this evening, Madam President.
Committee reports. We have Finance, Ms. Hovis?
Nothing tonight, Madam President.
Environment, Public Works, Mr. Troy? Safety Services, Ms. Phillips?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Economic and Community Development, Ms. Gilman?
We do have a brief meeting after this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Under correspondence, we have the Planning Commission May 23, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minute, or the correspondence as stated?
Madam President, I move to accept the Planning Commission notes from the 23rd.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Trolley. I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, seconded by Mr. Trolley to approve the correspondence as stated. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries, and the correspondence hereby approved. We have no readings under ordinances and resolutions. We'll move on to business from the floor. Mr. Morgan.
I got nothing except it was just really nice driving past that Adams Street and I saw things were working, so that's, and all the cookies ready.
Ms. Gangle.
Nothing. Everyone have a nice holiday. I'm traveling, but I'm coming back the morning of 4th of July, and it's really nice. A friend of and myself, we have a tradition where we take our 2 kids over to the beach, and we watch the fireworks every year, so that'll be exciting.
Ms. Phillips.
Thank you, Madam President. I have, the only thing that I said was, when I came on council in 1983, one of the things that were talked about were the roads. we're there, folks. We're finally getting to something with the roads, and it is so nice to see this happen. And I only have one more year, so let's get these things finished.
Thank you. Ms. Hovis?
Everybody have a safe, happy 4th of July.
Thank you. Mr. Trolley?
I reiterate everybody's wishes for a great holiday, and Mr. Mayor, congratulations.
Not just me, it's the whole
I know,
community.
but you steamrolled this, buddy, and you were the head, you started it.
Mrs. Gang?
I just want to congratulate everybody involved on Flip. I mean, it's amazing. I'm so glad. And I won't get to go to the fireworks because my dog is afraid.
No,
I like
Mrs.
fireworks.
Gilman. Thank you, Madam President. I had the opportunity to attend a ribbon cutting for Polly's Place, which just opened in my ward. It'll provide transitional housing for women and children in Ottawa County. The need is so great for access to housing. We have such a shortage in this area, and resources, support resources to help people get work, transportation. The location is perfect. It's a walkable, because our city is very walkable. And I'm so excited that it's right in my ward, right by the schools, right by some stores and a stadium. So that's fantastic. Harley's House, there is a ribbon cutting Thursday. You guys should all have had an invitation or seen it on Facebook. Another great project opening in the city limits. So just fantastic to see those services continuing post-COVID. Things are going again. So nothing else, Madam President.
Thank you. Seeing no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam President, I move this August body adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I'll second. Thank you, Mrs. Payne. I have a motion by Ms. Phillips, seconded by Mrs. Payne to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign.